So the third and probably the hardest standard is our proofs. So we're going to do one algebra and then a few geometry ones. So our first algebra one we have is our given statement. And I would encourage you to get out a piece of paper and push pause and write down the given, the prove, and do this with me and see if you can do it ahead of me. And then push play and see if your answers make sense with mine. So, number one. 3 times x minus 4 equals 5x plus 2. And that is my given. In our first step, we forget a lot of the name for this one a lot. We're going to bring the 3, multiply it by x and negative 4, and that is called the distribute property, or POE, I don't care. 3x minus 12 equals, 5x plus 2. So either distributed property or distributed POE. Then we can do a couple different things. You can add or subtract. I am going to add POE. So I'm going to add my 12. So I'm left with 3x. 5x doesn't change. And if I add 12 to 2, I get 14. And now I'm going to subtract my 5. So I get negative 2x equals 14. And my last step is going to be divide POE. So I get x equals negative 7, which that's what I wanted. That's my proof. So I know that, ooh, that's kind of dark. I'll just circle. This and this needs to be the same. And then we're done. All right, same thing here. Push pause, do the proof, see if we got the same answer. So our first bisects angle CAD by my given, and I have a picture here for you. And remember in chapter 1, we went through, and if you got that first given, and if you see the picture, you would put those tick marks in. So make sure you put in those tick marks, and that will help you figure out what's next. Because if bisect, then 2 congruent angles. And I put those angles in, and now I need to name those angles. Remember, those angles are named with 3 letters. So angle CAB is congruent to angle BAD. Remember, I start with your C, go to my A, and then end up at my B, CAB. Connect the dots. All right, my next step, I will look at my proof statement, and I see it needs to be in equals. So I change it to equals. Measure of angle CAB equals the measure of angle BAD. Now if you did a different step, that's okay. Don't change it. Then equals, because my last step and through steps 3 and 4 could be flipped, because I also see that angle BAD has to be first, so I need to flip it. So you can flip first and then change it to equals, or you can change it to equals like I did and then flip it. And they're both correct. CAB. And that is my symmetric property. And mine would be a symmetric POE. And we're done. Alright, so here's one. I have angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. And now I look at my picture. I have to start there because I can't start anywhere else. So I see some vertical angles. So if vertical then congruent, and I see 1 and 2 are vertical. So I know that they're congruent. So I can do 1 and 2. Now I'm going to think ahead a little bit and write angle 2 is congruent to angle 1 to save me a step. Because the ones are already linked now, and after the ones are linked, I can do angle 2 is congruent to angle 4 by my transitive P.O.c. Now, if you wrote it the other way, you would just have to use symmetric and then transitive, and it still works. When the 2 is first, because the 2 is in the first position, and the 4 is in the second position. So you just bring them straight down. Alright, so now we got to get this 3 in here. 3's up in our proof statement, so we got to figure out where that goes in. Well, I look and I see 3 and 4 are vertical. So now I'm going to do the same thing. Angle 4 is congruent to angle 3, so I can link my 4's, because if they're vertical, then congruent. And now I see my 4's can be linked, and that is my transitive P.O.c. So angle 2 is congruent to angle 3. I bring down the 2, bring down the 3, and I have 2 more steps left. And those 2 steps can be in any order. I need to flip and change it to an equals. Angle 3 is congruent to angle 2, so that's symmetric P.O.c. And then measure of angle 3 equals the measure of angle 2 by if congruent, then equals. Alright, proof is one we've done a lot. So I start with angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary by my given. And what does that mean? If supplementary, then sum equals 180. So that means that measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 180. Sum means add. I know my U's are somehow dragging out. So sum means add, so I'm adding 2 things, 1 and 2, and it equals 180. My next one is the measure of angle 2 equals 35 degrees, which is my given. Now I see measure of angle 2. Well, I'll do it in red here. So I see all 3 of those are equaling the same thing. So I'm going to replace, and remember my replacing, think about what replaces me as a teacher, and it is substitute. So substitute P-O-E. So measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle, or no, sorry, not measure of angle, plus 35 equals 180. And now if any of you got that problem, you would know that you wanted to subtract 35, measure of angle 1 equals 145 by subtraction POE. And then we want angle 1 is obtuse. Well, I have it 45 degrees, so that means that it is obtuse, because if an angle is between 90 and 180, then it is obtuse. And I'm done. So those are 3 different types of proofs. Well, 4 different types actually. Algebra, and then 3 different geometry proofs. There's a lot more on my notes. There's a lot more on your homework. But here's a good start.